So, what is a kinetic theory? Here we go for a deep meaning about these things. Okay, what is kinetic theory? Boyle discovered the law named after him in 1661. Boyle, Newton, and several others tried to explain the behavior of gases by considering that gases are made up of. Okay, first we are going to know about the objectives of 13.1 introduction, molecular nature of matter, behavior of gases, kinetic theory of an ideal gas, law of equipartition of energy, specific heat capacity, mean free path, summary points to point exercise and additional exercises. So, 150 years later, kinetic theory explains the behavior of gases based on the idea that the gas consists of rapidly moving atoms or molecules. This is possible as the interatomic forces, which are sort of short range forces that are important for solids and liquids, can be neglected for gases. The kinetic theory was developed in the 19th century by Maxwell, Boltzmann, and others. It has been remarkably successful. It gives a molecular interpretation of pressure and temperature of gas and is consistent with gas laws and Avogadro's hypothesis. It correctly explains the specific heat capacities of many gases. It also relates measurable properties of gases such as viscosity, conduction, and diffusion with molecular parameters, yielding estimates of molecular sizes and masses. This chapter gives an introduction to kinetic theory. Now, molecular nature of matter. Richard Feynman, one of the great psychologists of sorry, physicists of 20th century, considers the discovery that matter is made up of atoms to be a very significant one. Humanity may suffer annihilation and environmental disasters if we do not act wisely. That happens, and all of scientific knowledge were to be destroyed, then Feynman would like the atmospheric hypothesis to be communicated to the next generation of creatures in the communicated to the next generation of creatures in the universe. Atomic hypothesis: all things are made of atoms, little particles that move around in perpetual motion, attracting each other when they are at a little distance apart, but repelling upon being squeezed into one another. Speculation that matter may not be continuous existed in many places and cultures. Canada, in India, and Democritus. Atomic hypothesis in ancient Indian and Greece. Okay, so John Dalton is credited with the introduction of atomic viewpoint in modern sciences. Scholars in ancient India and Greece conjectured long before the existence of atoms and molecules. In the Vaisesika school of thought in India, founded by Canada, 6th century BC, the atomic picture was developed in considerable detail. Atoms were thought to be eternal, indivisible, and infinitesimal and ultimate parts of matter. It was argued that if matter could be subdivided without an end, there would be no difference between a mustard seed and the Meru mountain. The four kinds of atoms, Paramanu, Sanskrit word of the smallest particle, postulated were Bhumi, earth, Ap, water, Tejas, fire, and Vayu, air, that have characteristic mass. And other attributes were propounded. Space was thought to have no atomic structure and was continuous and inert. Atoms combine to form different molecules, that is, two atoms combine to form a diatomic molecule, Divyanuka. Three atoms form a Trianuka or triadic molecule. The properties depending upon the nature and ratio of the constituent atoms. The size of the atoms was also estimated by a conjecture or by methods that are known to us. The estimates vary. In Lalita Vistara, a famous biography of the Buddha, were written mainly in the 2nd century BC. The estimate is close to the modern estimate of atomic size of the order of 10 to the power of minus 9 10 meter. The ancient Greece Democritus. I felt irritated by the cause of it, but I should do something about it. I will go there and read. Oh, amma. So, the John Dalton is credited with the introduction of atomic viewpoint in modern science scholars, and in ancient Greece, Democritus, 4th century BC, the best, according to atoms, differ from each other physically and shape and size and other properties. Okay, now it's okay. Now it will be very much okay. Be like this, okay. Okay, now in ancient Greece, Democritus and is best known for his atomic hypothesis. The word atom means indivisible in Greek. According to him, atoms differ from each other physically in shape, size, and other properties, and this resulted in the different properties of the substances formed other, which is why liquid water flows easily. The atoms of the earth were rough and jagged, so they held together to form hard substances. Too, the atoms of fire were thorny, which is why it is causes painful burns. These fascinating ideas, despite their ingenuity, could not evolve much further, perhaps because they were intuitive conjectures and speculations not tested and modified by quantitative experiments, the hallmark of modern science. In Greece had suggested that matter may consist of indivisible constituents. The scientific atomic theory is usually credited by John Dalton. He proposed the atomic theory to explain the laws of definite and multiple proportions obeyed by elements when they combine into compounds. The first law says that any given compound has a fixed proportion by mass of its constituents. The second law says that when two elements form more than one compound for a fixed mass of one element, the masses of the other elements are in ratio of small integers. To explain the law, Dalton suggested about 200 years ago that the smallest constituents of an eternal of element or atoms of one element are identical but differ from those of other elements. A small number of atoms of each element combine to form a molecule of the compound. Gay-Lussac's law, also given in early 19th century, states when gas is combined chemically to yield another gas, so equal volumes of all gases at equal temperature. So Avogadro's law, when combined with Dalton theory, complains Gay-Lussac's atomic theory can also be referred to as a molecular theory of matter. The theory is now well accepted by scientists. However, even at the end of the 19th century, there were famous scientists who did not believe in atomic theory. From many observations in recent times to now, know that molecules made up of one or more atoms constitute matter. Electrons, microscopes, and scanning tunneling microscopes enable us to even see them. The size of an atom is about an angstrom, 10 to the power of minus 10 meter. In solids, which are tightly packed, atoms are spaced about a few at amsterdams up to amsterdams apart. In liquids, the separation between atoms is also about the same. In liquids, the atoms are not as rigidly fixed as in solids and can move around. This enables liquid to flow. In gases, the interatomic distances are in tens of angstroms. The average distance of a molecule can travel without colliding it is called the mean free path. The mean free path is gases is of order of thousands of angstroms. The atoms are much free in gases and can travel long distance without colliding. If they are not enclosed, gases disperse away in solids and liquids, or the closeness makes the interatomic forces part important. The force has long range attraction and a short range repulsion. The atoms attract when they are at a few angstroms but repel when they come closer. The static appearance of gas is misleading. The gas is full of activity and the equilibrium is a dynamic one. In dynamic equilibrium, molecules collide and change their speeds during the collision. Only the average properties are constant. Atomic theory is not the end of our quest, but the beginning. We now know atoms are not indivisible and are elementary. They consist of a nucleus and electrons. The nucleus itself is made up of protons and neutrons. The protons and neutrons are again made up of quarks. Even quarks may not be the end of the story. There may be string like elementary entities. Nature always has surprises for us, but the search for truth is often enjoyable and the discovery is beautiful. In this chapter, we shall limit ourselves to understanding the behavior of gases and little bit of solids and as a collection of moving molecules in incessant motion. Behavior of gases. Properties of gases are easier to understand than those of solids and liquids. This is mainly because in a gas, molecules are far from each other and their mutual interactions are negligible except when two molecules collide. Gases at low pressures and high temperatures, much above that at which they liquefy or solidify, approximately satisfy a simple relation between their pressure, temperature, and volume given by CPV is equal to KT. For a given sample of the gas, a temperature is in Kelvin or absolute scale. K is a constant for the given sample but varies with the volume of the gas. If we now bring in the idea of atoms, molecules, then K is proportional to the number of molecules. Say n in the sample, we can write write K is equal to n K. Observation tells us that this K is same for all gases. It is called Boltzmann's constant and is denoted by the observation tells us that K is the same for all gases. It is called Boltzmann constant and is denoted by Kb. P1 V1 by Nt is equal to Pt V2 by N2 V2, and Pv and Rt are same. Then N is also same for all gases. This is Avogadro's hypothesis that the number of molecules per unit volume is same for all gases at a fixed temperature and pressure. The number in 22.4 liters of any gas is G6.02 into 10 to the power 23. This is known as Avogadro's number and is denoted by Na. The mass of 22.4 liters of any gas is equal to its molecular weight in grams at standard temperature 273 Kelvin and pressure 1 atmosphere. This amount of substance is called a mole. See chapter 2 for a more precise definition. Avogadro has guessed the equality of numbers in equal volumes of gas at fixed temperature and pressure from chemical reactions. Kinetic theory justifies this hypothesis. A perfect gas equation can be written as PV equal to mu RT, where mu is the number of moles and R is equal to NaKb as a universal constant. The temperature is absolute temperature. Choosing Kelvin scale for John Dalton, he was an English chemist. When different types of atoms combine, they obey certain simple laws. Dalton's atomic theory explains these laws in simple way. He also gave a theory of color blindness. Amedeo Avogadro made a brilliant guess that equal volumes of gases have equal number of molecules at the same temperature and pressure. This helps in understanding in the combination of different gases in a very simple way. It is now called Avogadro's hypothesis or law. He also suggested that the smallest constituent of gases like hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen are not atoms but diatomic molecules. Absolute temperature R equals to 8.314 joule per mole Kelvin. Here M by M naught, N by Na, where M is the mass of the gas containing N molecules, M naught is the molar mass, and N is the Avogadro's number. Using equations 13.4 and 13.3 can also be written as PV is equal to Kb and T, or P equals to Kb and T, where N is the number density, the number of molecules per unit volume. Kb is the Boltzmann constant introduced above. Its value in SI units is 1.38 into 10 to the power of minus 23 joules per Kelvin. 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 23 jou A gas that satisfies exactly at all pressure and temperatures is defined to be an ideal gas. A gas that satisfies equation 13.3 exactly at all pressures and temperatures is defined to be an ideal gas. An ideal gas is simple theoretical model of a gas. No real gas is truly ideal. Figure 13.1 shows departures from ideal gas behavior for a real gas at three different temperatures. Notice that all curves approach the ideal gas behavior for low pressures and high temperatures. At low pressures or high temperatures, the molecules are far apart and molecules interactions are negligible. Without interactions, the gas behaves like an ideal one. If we fix mu and T in equality, you get PV equals to constant. And keeping temperature constant, pressure of a given mass of gas varies inversely with volume. This is the famous Boyle's law and source comparison between experimental PV curves and theoretical curves predicted by Boyle's law. Once again, you see the agreement is good at high temperatures and low pressures. Next, if you fix P equivalent to 13.1 shows that V proportional to T, that is for fixed pressure, the volume of a gas is proportional to its absolute temperature T. Finally, consider a mixture of non-interacting ideal gas mu, moles of gas 1, mu 2 moles of gas and pressure P. It is then found that the equation of state of the mixture is PV equals to mu RT. Clearly, P1 is equal to mu RT by V is the pressure gas 1 would exert at the same time conditions of volume and temperature if not other gases were present. This is called the partial pressure of the gas. Thus, the total pressure of a mixture of ideal gases is the sum of partial pressures. This is Dalton's law of partial pressures. We next consider some examples which give us information about the volume occupied by the molecules and the volume of a single molecule. The density of water is 1000 kg per meter cube. The density of water vapor is water vapor at 100 degrees centigrade and 1 at atmospheric pressure is 0.6 kg per meter cube. The volume of a molecule multiplied by the total number gives what is called molecular volume. Estimate the ratio or fraction of the molecular volume to the total volume occupied by the water vapor under the above conditions of temperature and pressure. For a given mass of water molecules, the density is less if volume is less. So the volume of vapor is 1000 by 0.6 equals to 6 10 to the power minus 4 times larger. If densities of bulk water and water molecules are same, then the fraction of molecular volume to the total volume in liquid state is 1. As volume in vapor state has increased, the fractional volume is less by the same amount. In the liquid phase, the molecules of water are quite closely packed. Density of water molecule may therefore be recorded as roughly equal to the density of bulk water equals to 1000 kg per meter cube. To estimate the volume of a water molecule, we need to know the mass of the single water molecule. We know that 1 mole of water has a mass approximately equal to 2 plus 16 gram is equal to 18 gram is equal to 0.018 kg. Since 1 mole contains about 16 to the power of 23 molecules, Avogadro's number, the mass of a molecule of water is 0.018 into y by 16 to the power of 23 kg is equal to 3 into 10 to the power of minus 26 kg. Therefore, a rough estimate of the volume of water molecule is as follows: 3 into the power of minus 26 kg by 1000 kg per meter cube is equal to 3 into 10 to the power of minus 29 meter cube. That is 4 by 3 pi radius meter cube. Hence, radius is approximated 2 into 10 to the power of minus 10 m equals to 2 Armstrong. What is the average distance between atoms? Interatomic distance in water. Use the data given in examples 13.1 13.2. Here, there are a lot of things actually, and if we read all those things, it may not enter into our mind, and most probably this is not time for us to read all this stuff, because if we read these things at all, it will not come in exam actually, may not come, because it's a lot of stuff to be read. And if at all, if you're really interested to learn these things as you can do it, but not now. I am telling you why, because if I read all this stuff, it's really helpful for me to understand the concepts. But as far as my service entry commissioning exam is concerned, it will not going to give me the value, the marks, which ultimately decides my destiny. So as far as my marks are considered, I have to focus on the MCQ of these chapters. Although I may not understand the concepts properly, I have to at least remember those things to reproduce them in the exam. As far as the exam is concerned, if at all, if I have that long term strategy, as I can go deep in the to analyze and to understand the basic concepts of the syllabus and all these things, and that stuff will be not done now, but it's supposed to be done at least 3 months before. So I will not read it now. Thank you. No. I will go for the kinetics, my MCQ, kinetic theory of gases MCQ. Okay, let us see what will happen now. Kinetic theory of gases. Oh my goodness. Kinetic theory of gases MCQ physics. Okay. Continue. Okay. First question here. Let us see. The VRMS of gas molecules is 300 meter per second. If its absolute temperature is reduced to half and molecular weight is doubled, the VRMS will become. One second. The VRMS of gas molecules is 300 meter per second. If its absolute temperature is reduced to half and the molecular weight is doubled, the VRMS will become. Answer is 150 meter per second. How? Gas molecules, VRMS of gas molecules is 300 meter per second. If its absolute temperature is reduced to half and molecular weight is doubled, the VRMS will become, so 300 से कितना हो जाएगा, 150 हो जाएगा. How? Temperature is reduced to half and molecular weight is doubled. How? कैसे होगा? Do you know that? कैसे होगा? Here RT by M. T and M equation we get. Here T is equal to T by T. T by 2. Okay. Understood? And the temperature, initial absolute temperature T and initial molecular weight M. So absolute temperature halved, so the new absolute temperature is equal to T by 2. Okay, molecular weight is doubled, so M is equal to 2M. Okay, so it's become 1 by 4. So it's a root over 1 by 4 means 1 by, so it's becomes 1 by 2. So VRMS will become, पहले 300 था 1 by 2 कर देते हैं तो 150 हो जाएगी. अर्थమైందా? Okay, next. Ratio of RMS velocities of O2 and H2 at equal temperature will be. Ratio of RMS velocities of O2 and H2 at equal temperature will be. Ratio of RMS velocities of O2 and H2 at equal temperature will be 1:4. The effective velocity of gas particles in a gaseous sample is called root mean square speed, RMS speed. Root mean square speed. RMS velocity is given by root mean square speed. RMS is equal to root over 3 RT by M, where R universal gas constant, temperature, and molar mass of the gas. Here given MO2 equals to 32, MH2 equals to 2. RMS velocity of O2 is given by 3RT by MO2 is equal to 3RT by 32. RMS velocity of H2 gas is given by VH2 is equal to root over 3RT by MH2 is equal to root over 3RT by 2. Now, by dividing equation 1 and 2, get VO2 by VH2 equals to 3 root over 3RT by 32 by root over 3RT by 2, where 3RT RT cancelled. So, root over, you can say 2 by 32 equals to 1 by 16. Root over 1 by 16 equals to 1 by 4. Next, kinetic theory of gases MCQ question 3. The molecule of a monatomic gas has only 3 translational degrees of freedom. Thus, the average energy of a molecule at temperature T is, the molecule of a monatomic gas has only 3 translational degrees of freedom. Thus, the average energy of a molecule at temperature T is. Can you tell me what is that? 3 by 2 kb per kbt. 3 by 2 kbt. Here, according to the kinetic energy theory, if we increase the temperature of a gas, it will increase the average kinetic energy of the molecule. According to kinetic energy theory, if we increase the temperature of a gas, it will increase the average kinetic energy of the molecule, which will increase the motion of the molecules. This increased motion increases the outward pressure of the gas. The average kinetic energy K or energy E of translational per molecules of the gas is related to temperature by the relationship K equals to 3 by 2 kBT. Degree of freedom of a monatomic gas equals to 3, where Ke kinetic energy, Kb Boltzmann constant, and T equals to temperature. Explanation: the average energy of a molecule is given by Ke equals to 3 by 2 kBT. See, the option 4 is correct. What is that 4? Option 3 by 2 kBT. That's all. So next, what is the relation between kinetic energy E of a gas and its pressure P? Let us see. P equals to 2 by 3 E. P equals to 2 by 3 E. Pressure energy E, kinetic energy E, then it's about 2 by 3 E. Okay. Here the pressure in gas developed due to the collision between the gaseous molecules. The energy possessed by a molecule of the gas due to its motion is called kinetic energy of the gas molecules. From the kinetic theory of gases, the pressure P exerted by an ideal gas is given by P equals to 1 by 3 Pc square, where rho is the density of ideal gas and C is its root mean square velocity, RMS velocity C. Okay, we know density is equal to mass per volume, which implies that mass equals to density into volume. So for unit volume of gas equals to rho into 1, that is equal to rho. Now the mean kinetic energy of translational per unit volume of gas equals to root over P rho C square is equal to, therefore P by equals to 1 by 3rd rho C square by 1 by 2 rho C square. So here 2 by 3. So P equals to 2 by 3 E. Explanation: the pressure P that is exerted by an ideal gas is equal to 2/3 of the mean kinetic energy of translation E per unit volume of the gas. So option is P equals 2 by 3 E. Next, the pressure exerted by gas according to the kinetic theory, the molecules of a gas are in state of continuous random motion. They collide with one another and also with the walls of the vessel. Whenever a molecule collides with the wall, it returns with the changed momentum, and an equal momentum is transferred to the wall. Conservation of momentum. According to Newton's second law of motion, the rate of transfer of momentum to the wall is equal to the force exerted on the wall. Since a large number of molecules collide with the wall, the steady force is exerted on the wall. The force exerted per unit area of the wall is the pressure of the gas. Hence, the gas exerts pressure due to the continuous collisions of its molecules with the walls of the vessel. Okay, according to Boyle's law for a perfect gas, what is that answer? V1 by P2 equals to V2 by V1 if T is kept constant. Here the concept is the Boyle's law: increase pressure, decrease pressure, then P2 V2. Okay, then if a given mass of an ideal gas at a constant temperature, the volume of gas is inversely proportional to its pressure. The given mass of an ideal gas at constant temperature, the volume of a gas is inversely proportional to its pressure. P1 by P2 equals to V2 by V1. PV is equal to constant. P1 V1 is equal to P2 V2. As temperature remains constant in the isothermal process, then Boyle's law holds for an ideal gas. Isothermal changes. Explanation from above, it is clear that according to Boyle's law, for a fixed mass of gas at a constant temperature, the volume is inversely proportional to the pressure. That means that, for example, if you double the pressure, you will have the volume. This can express this mathematically as PV equals to constant, P1 V1 equals to P2 V2. That is that. The RMS speed of gas at 77 degrees centigrade is V. If the temperature of the gas is raised to 327 degrees centigrade, then the RMS speed of a gas is. So V root over T, root over 2, root 2, okay, V root 2. The kinetic theory of gas MCQ, here you can see detailed answer question below. RMS is defined as the square root of the mean of squares of the speed of different molecules. The root mean square speed takes into account both molecular weight and temperature, two factors that directly affect the kinetic energy of material. The RMS speed of any homogeneous gas simply is given by Vrms is equal to root over 3RT by M, where R equals to universal gas constant is equal to temperature and M molecular mass. Calculation given initial RMS velocity V, initial temperature T1 equals to 27 degrees centigrade is equal to 300 K, and final temperature T2 equals to 327 degrees centigrade is equal to 600 K. The sample is the sample is the same, therefore the molecular mass will be the same. Hence Vrms proportional to root T, and Vrms 1 by Vrms 2 is equal to T1 by T2. So V1 by Vrms is equal to 300 by 600 equals to 1 by root over 2, root 2. So Vrms 2 equals to V root 2. Okay, next go for the question. Find the RMS speed of nitrogen molecules in a gas at 300 K. Concept is root mean square 516 meter per second. The root mean square is here it is given. Calculus as per 300 K. Molar mass of nitrogen is 28 gram per mole, equal to 28 into 10 to the power of minus 3. Okay, d minus 3 RT. R is equal to 3 into 8.3 into 100, 300 na? Right, 300 K na? Nitrogen gas temperature at 300 K. So 300 is over, and 3 into R means, yeah, everybody knows that R is, what is that R? (28 into 10 to the power of minus 3). Here 28 grams per mole. Okay, 8.3 and 5.1. Okay, it's over now. I cannot go further rather than this. Okay, now we'll go for induction. Okay. Okay. Induction, Faraday's laws of induction physics, NCRT. Ah, oh my goodness. What is this? Electric charges and fields. Okay. Introduction. All of us have the experience of seeing a spark or hearing a crackle when we take off our synthetic clothes or sweater, particularly in dry weather. This is almost inevitable with ladies' garments like a polyester sari. Have you ever tried to find any explanation for this phenomena? Another common example of electric discharge is the lightning that we see in the sky before during thunderstorms. We also experience the sensation of an electric shock either while opening the door of a car or holding the iron bar of a bus after sliding from our seat. The reason for these experiences is the discharge of electric charges through our body, which are accumulated due to rubbing of insulating surfaces. We might have also heard that this is due to generation of static electricity. This is precisely the topic we are going to discuss in this and the next chapter. Static means anything that does not move or change with time. Electrostatics deals with the study of forces, fields, and potentials arising from static charges, electric charge. Historically, the credit of discovery is of the fact that amber rubbed with wool or silk cloth attracts light objects goes to Thales of Miletus, Greece around 600 BC. The name electricity is coined from the Greek word electron, meaning amber. Many such pairs of materials were known which, on rubbing, could attract light objects like straw, pit balls, and balls of papers. You can perform the following activity at home to experience such an effect. Cut out the long thin strips of white paper and lightly iron them. Take them near a TV screen or a computer monitor. You will see that the strips get attracted to the screen. In fact, they remain stuck to the screen for a while. It was observed that if the two glass rods rubbed with a wool or silk cloth are brought close to each other, they repel each other. The two strands of wool or two pieces of silk cloth with which the rods were rubbed also repel each other. However, the glass rod and wool attracted each other. Similar to plastic rods rubbed with cat's fur repelled each other but attracted the fur. On the other hand, the plastic rod attracts the glass rod and repels the silk or wool with which the glass rod is rubbed. The glass rod repels the fur. If a plastic rod rubbed with fur is made to touch two small pit balls, nowadays we can use polystyrene balls suspended by silk or nylon thread by then the balls repel each other and then are repelled by the rod. These seemingly simple facts were established from years of efforts and careful experiments in their analysis. It was concluded after many careful studies by different scientists that there were only two kinds of an entity which is called electric charge. We saw that the bodies like glass or plastic rod, silk, or fur, or peat balls are electrified. They acquire electric charge on rubbing. The experiments on pit balls suggested that there are two kinds of electrification, and we find that like charges repel and unlike charges attract each other. The experiments also demonstrated that the charges are transferred from the rods to the pit balls on contact. They said that the pit balls are electrified are charged by contact. The property which differentiates the two kinds of charges is called the polarity of charge. When a glass rod is rubbed with silk, or the rod acquires one kind of charge and the silk acquires the second kind of charge. This is true for any pair of objects that are rubbed to be electrified. If the electrified glass rod is brought in contact with silk with which it was rubbed, they no longer attract each other. They also do not attract or repel other light objects as they did on being electrified. Thus, the charge is acquired after rubbing or lost when the charged bodies are brought in contact. What can you conclude from these observations? Did it just tell us that unlike charges acquired by the objects, neutralize or nullify each other's effect. Therefore, the charges were named as positive and negative by American scientist Benjamin Franklin. We know that when we add a positive number to a negative number of the same magnitude, the sum is zero. This might have been the philosophy of naming the charges as positive and negative by convention. The charge on glass rod or cat's fur is called positive, and that on a plastic rod or silk is termed negative. If an object possesses an electric charge, it is said to be electrified or charged. When it has no charge, it has to be neutral. Unification of electricity and magnetism. In olden days, electricity and magnetism were treated as separate subjects. Electricity dealt with charges on glass rods, batteries, lightning, etc., while magnetism described interactions of magnets, iron filings, compass needles, etc. In 1820, Danish scientists Oersted found that a compass needle is deflected by passing an electric current through a wire placed near the needle. Ampere and Faraday supported this observation by saying that electric charges in motion produce magnetic fields and moving magnets generate electricity. The unification was achieved when the Scottish physicist Maxwell and the Dutch physicist Lorentz put forward a theory where they showed the interdependence of these two subjects. This field is called electromagnetism. Most of the phenomena occurring around us can be described under electromagnetism. Virtually every force that we can think of, like friction, chemical force between atoms holding the matter together, and even the forces describing processes occurring in cells of living organisms, have its origin on electromagnetic force. Electromagnetic force is one of the fundamental force of nature. Maxwell put forth four equations that play the same role in classical electromagnetism as Newton's equations of motion and gravitation law play in mechanics. He also argued that light is electromagnetic in nature and its speed can be found by making purely electric and magnetic measurements. He claimed that the science of optics is intimately related to that of electricity and magnetism. The science of electricity and magnetism is the foundation for the modern technological civilization. Electric power, telecommunication, radio and television, and a wide variety of the practical appliances used in daily life are based on the principles of this science. Although charged particles in motion exert both electric and magnetic forces in the frame of reference where all the charges are at rest, the forces are purely electrical. You know that gravitational force is a long range force. In effect, is felt well even when the distance between the interacting particles is very large, because the force decreases inversely as the square of the distance between the interacting bodies. We will learn in this chapter that electric force is also as pervasive and is in fact stronger than the gravitational force by several orders of magnitude. A simple apparatus to detect charge on a body is the gold leaf electroscope. It consists of vertical metal rod housed in a box with two thin gold leaves attached to its bottom end. When a charged object touches that metal knob at the top of the rod, charge flows onto the leaves and they diverge. The degree of divergence is an indicator of the amount of charge. Students can make a simple electroscope as follows. Take a thin aluminum curtain rod with ball ends fitted for hanging the curtain. Cut out a piece of length about 20 centimeters with the ball at the one end and flatten the cut end. Take a large bottle that can hold this rod and a cork which will fit in the opening of the bottle. Make a hole in the cork sufficient to hold the curtain rod snugly. Slide the rod through the hole in the cork with the cut end on the lower side and ball and projecting above the cork. Fold a small thin aluminum foil about 6 centimeter. Okay, now it's over. Thank you, and we are going to eat something and then I will return to here.